On September 11, 2001, 19 militants associated with the Islamic extremist group al-Qaeda hijacked four airliners and carried out suicide attacks against targets in the United States. Two of the planes were flown into the towers of the World Trade Center in New York City, a third plane hit the Pentagon just outside Washington, D.C., and the fourth plane crashed in a field in Pennsylvania. Often referred to as 9/11, the attacks resulted in extensive death and destruction, triggering major U.S. initiatives to combat terrorism and defining the presidency of George W. Bush. Over 3,000 people were killed during the attacks in New York City and Washington, D.C., including more than 400 police officers and firefighters. At 8:45 on a clear Tuesday morning, an American Airlines flight loaded with 20,000 gallons of jet fuel crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City. The impact left a gaping, burning hole near the 80th floor of the 110-story skyscraper, instantly killing hundreds of people and trapping hundreds more in higher floors. As the evacuation of the tower and its twin got underway, television cameras broadcasted live images of what initially appeared to be a freak accident. Then, 18 minutes after the first plane hit, a second Boeing 767 appeared out of the sky, turned sharply toward the World Trade Center, and sliced into the South Tower near the 60th floor. The collision caused a massive explosion that showered burning debris over surrounding buildings and the streets below. Some causes for this was the idea of humiliation of the Islamic world through globalization, and some argue animosity toward the West is best understood with the decline of the once powerful Ottoman Empire, compounded by the import of Western ideas. Some argue that the attacks were part of a plan to cause the United States to increase its military and cultural presence in the Middle East, thereby forcing Muslims to confront the idea of a non-Muslim government and establish conservative Islamic governments in the region. There were many after effects due to this. Some after effects was more than a decade of war. Less than a month after 9/11, U.S. troops invaded Afghanistan in an effort to dismantle al-Qaeda and remove the Taliban government that was harboring the terrorist group. 2 years later, in March 2003, the United States invaded Iraq, which, although not directly tied to the terrorist attacks, it was closely linked to the newly launched war on terror. In the wake of the terrorist attacks, airport security underwent a series of major overhauls. What was once largely provided by private companies is now overseen by the Transportation Security Administration. Created in the wake of the attacks, the TSA is tasked with instituting new security procedures and managing screenings at every commercial airport checkpoint in the country. It marks the single largest federal startup days of the World War II. The U.S. intelligence state boomed in the wake of 9/11 also. The growth resulted in a marked increase in government intrusion, primarily through a vast clandestine network of phone and web surveillance.